to meet by telephone, video conference, so long as the communications equipment used to conduct the meeting allows all members of the board to see and hear one another at the same time, and also allows members of the public to hear all board members, and if allowed, to participate. In accordance with the governor's proclamation, this meeting will be held by telephone video conference through the Cisco WebEx platform. Anyone other than a member of the board or an official or employee recognized by the chairman is asked to mute their telephone and microphone on their computer. Okay? The Birmingham Land Bank Authority will, no less than 24 hours following the conclusion of this meeting conducted pursuant to this notice, post a written summary or video or audio recording of the meeting in a prominent location on the Birmingham Land Bank Authority website. Any written summary shall recount the deliberations conducted and the actions taken with reasonable specificity to allow the public to understand what was happening, what happened today. And it is signed by me, Lonnie Hannon III, the chairman. And at this time, I will ask Ms. Douglas to conduct a roll call. Ms. Douglas? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you
Hey.
hear Ms. Douglas?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I will go ahead and conduct the roll call. Okay. Director Watson?
Present.
Director Hatcher?
Present.
Director Green? Director Green? Director Burton? Director Anderson? Director Clark?
Present.
And Director Hannon is present. So we do have 4 members present today, and that constitutes a quorum. So we will be able to conduct business today at our meeting. All right. So I am going to go into the agenda items today. The first thing that I want to do is congratulate Director Carol Clark for her stunning victory and very impressive and very well-deserved victory in her run for city council. So she is newly appointed city councilwoman.
Thank you. Thank you. I am council-elect still at this point, and I'm just so stunned at what the voters did for me in concluding the election and not sending us into a runoff. And so I'm very grateful for that, and still, learning and transitioning, and will ultimately need to resign from this board. But right now, it looks like the swearing in will be the end of October, so I still have a little time left, and we can talk about, what might be the best time to do that for this board.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Director Clark.
Thank you.
It's bittersweet because we don't want to lose you, but we are definitely happy that you had such a wonderful victory. And we know that you will continue to serve the city intelligently and passionately as you have done for so long. And so I appreciate your service, and I look forward to following you in the next few years.
Thank you.
All right. At this time,
Director Hannon, can you hear me?
yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can. Can everyone hear Ms. Douglas?
It's echoey. It's got a
lot of
reverb.
feedback.
Yeah.
There is some feedback.
One second. Dr. Hannon, how is that? You still have feedback?
Yes, a little bit of feedback. Ms. Douglas, can you hear us okay?
She responded in the chat.
I'm sorry, but Director Watson?
I was just saying, Ms. Douglas responded in the chat.
Okay, let me take a look. Okay, so we will proceed with the meeting. And Director Clark, I'm sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Okay. All right, so we will proceed with the meeting, and our next order of business will be the approval of the June minutes. And I am asking that everyone refer to their package, and we will take just a minute to review those. And we will approve or disapprove the minutes.
I'll
Do we
make
have
a
a
motion.
motion to approve the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of the minutes of the June 3rd Land Bank Authority meeting.
I'll second. Nolanda Hatcher.
Okay. Is there a vote? I will call for a vote here. Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, the first item on our agenda today is Resolution 9.2.21.1, and it is a resolution approving applications and authorizing board chair to execute agreements with applicants for lot lease program. So, Chelsea, is there any information that needs to be expressed to the board concerning these lots?
I have personally went through all of this. I'm sorry, it's the okay. Everybody on here pretty much are side lots, which means that the property that they are getting is adjoining their personal property. The two that are adopted lots are literally maybe like Miss Sanders. She's trying to get two side lots, and then the other lot is next to the side lot that she would get if we approve of it. And then Miss Shabazz, the property that she runs is still on the same street as the property that where she lives at. So everybody is still within the same neighborhood. Everybody lives in that neighborhood, and the property is, if not right next door, fairly close to their property that they own.
Is there any discussion from the board?
I guess, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
you know, when I think of side lots, I know our neighborhoods have been so decimated that you might have a half a block of side lots, right? But when I think of side lots, I think of, you know, two houses with a lot in between, and ideally, you know, them splitting the lot and extending their yards by, you know, half of that lot, each person on each side extending their lot by half of that lot width, so that it doesn't throw the layout of the whole subdivision off in terms of, you know, I mean, that's the ideal situation, really, when two houses have a side lot, I mean, have a vacant lot in between, they can, you know, take that half of that side lot, extend their yards, and the overall neighborhood fabric is somewhat preserved in that. But I do see houses where they have a whole lot beside them, and if it's maintained and fenced in, it really doesn't throw things off. But I'm just curious how three lots in a row and how that's going to look with the scale of the neighborhood. I don't have a sense of the context of this neighborhood. And I'm just wondering, and I don't necessarily want to disrupt this particular recommendation. I'm just thinking about it, you know, as we go forward, you know, what the design, you know, because we could just have a neighborhood full of very weird sized lots, and it prevents an infill from happening, like if someone fences in 3 or 4 lots in line with their house, and what does the neighborhood start to look like, you know? And so I'm just throwing that out there, really just for future consideration when we start to do some more strategic planning. I know we want to get these back on the tax rolls and get them maintained, and that's a clear objective that we want to have. But I'm just throwing that out there for just consideration and for future.
Right. I
I'm gonna
think,
try to look these up too, right quick.
yeah, no, I think that's very good insight. And it's definitely something that we want to examine as the land bank prepares to develop its strategic plan. So Ms. Law, how do we have a process of following up and documenting these adopt-a lots and side lots to get a portrait of how they evolve over time? Like, are they, you know, to understand if they're helpful or hurtful?
So a lot of times, this program is really just a starter for a lot of the people that are in this, that are interested in getting these properties. So with here, they're not allowed to put anything permanent on the properties. Literally, they're just maintaining the property, or some of them put gardens on there, either private gardens or public gardens for people in the community to come together. After their 2 years are up, they do have three different choices of how they can acquire the property. One is following up and going into the quiet title program. The second option is to get a quit claim deed. And once they get a quit claim deed, then we have nothing else to do with that property. And then the third option is to walk away from the property. Majority of the people who start in the lot lease program do go on into the quiet title program to get that full fee simple ownership of it. And just following up on it, they just continue to maintain the property. Some of them may put fences around there just to connect their yards with that particular property. But majority of the people that do go on into the quiet title program, they're getting it to extend their yard out and just to keep it maintained.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is a stepping stone
Mhm.
for ownership of the lot.
Yeah, so
Yes,
it
ma'am.
appears, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, it appears that one is across the alley and two are in line with her house, so they're not all three. I'm a, who is the applicant? Ms. Sanders, yeah. So she's just surrounded by vacant lots, so I think in this case, I'm glad she can take some action
Yes, ma'am.
to
Under a lot of
control
these
the
neighborhoods
environment
happens.
around her. 'Cause
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Unfortunately, in a lot of these neighborhoods, when demolition happens, there isn't any other infill housing that happens. So you may be the only, I've seen it where there's one house on the whole block and the rest of the block is literally just vacant lots. Or there are a lot of abandoned houses that are in the neighborhood. So there may be a vacant lot in between one house and another, but the other house is abandoned as well. And so a lot of our people in this program, they're just saying, hey, I'm just surrounded by dilapidated properties, abandoned houses, and I'm the only one that's cutting this grass. Is there something I can do to work towards ownership of it? And that's where this lot lease program comes in.
Mhm. Well, maybe in our strategic planning, we can look at how we can offer more options in this program or a different program that would maybe be an incentive towards development of of the property as opposed to just upkeep of the property. Maybe that's a different program.
Definitely a larger conversation.
Mhm.
Right.
So
agree.
so that we can dispose of this item, I'll make a motion that we approve uh, Chair Hannon to go ahead and execute the agreement as presented for the Adopt a Lot lease program.
second,
All right, so we have a second. All right, Director Clark,
aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
and it's an aye for me as well. All right, so the next item on our agenda is resolution 9.2.21.2, and it's a resolution approving applications and authorizing the board chair to execute agreement with applicants for the quiet title program. So the floor is open for discussion.
Okay, so on this one, we know that you all got the agreement, the agenda before. hand, so we didn't want to take anything off and throw everything off. So our inspector, Mr. Richardson, did go out into the field and personally lay eyes on every single one of these properties to make sure that there isn't anyone living in it. Those that he did find were occupied. The property will no longer consider them on this agenda.
Okay. So so I see where some of these were, can you help us understand again why they were put on the list in the first place?
So everything with the application was really good, and so we were going to originally set them before you all. The inspection hadn't been done, and so we just decided, you know, everything that we were going to go ahead and recommend to the board, let's put it on there. If things change, then we'll just strike it out and put a note for that so that the board knows what's going on with that property.
Right. So these are, thank you. So these are properties that we had applications on. These are properties that we've cleared title on, but is someone living in these properties now?
So the ones that are struck out, those are the ones we did find out that they are occupied. The inspection is kind of the last thing that we do before we recommend it to the board. Because we found out that they were occupied, we decided let's not go ahead and get involved with it at all. And so that's why it's still on here, because it was on the original agenda that we sent you all, but we struck it out so that you would know, hey, we're no longer considering this particular property because we found out it was occupied.
Right, but what I'm asking is, have we not quieted the title on these properties that are struck out?
No, sir, we have not
Oh,
quieted the title on these
I got you.
properties.
Yes, I understand.
This is for the quiet title program so that we can quiet the title.
All right.
So,
So
Ms. Lau, this is a list of properties that are currently owned or in the possession of the land bank.
They,
Bank
a
eligible.
majority of these we are about to get ready to request a tax deed. There were, I think, only one of these properties that was crossed out that we do have the tax deed to already, and
Okay.
we found out that it is occupied.
Okay. Right.
is there any other?
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Sure, sure.
So we inspect and we find that somebody's occupying the house, so we don't want to get involved. But the ones we go forward with today, we won't secure that property in any way. So it's conceivable that after several months and we've quieted the title, that somebody could be living in it then. So what do we do then if we're ready to award this to someone and they go out and inspect and someone's living in it?
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I am joining you a bit late. Chelsea and I are in the same office. She's helping me with the technical difficulties, and I heard your question, Director Clark, so we just played musical chairs. I would like Mr. Richardson to weigh in on the conversation on how he identifies a property as occupied. Because Director Clark, you're right. I think you're hitting on something that even if a property is vacant, there may be a squatter or some type of occupancy.
Right.
But
And
I
that's
want
what I
Mr.
was.
Richardson to,
Right. I'm sorry.
but I want Mr. Richardson to explain when we say it's occupied, what exactly do we mean by that? So Inspector Richardson, I see you're on the line.
Yes, ma'am. And how is everybody
Okay.
doing today?
Doing well.
Thank you.
Good. Well, basically, I'm looking at the power meter, and if the yard is kept up, as well as someone cars in the yard, some properties you can just look at and know it's someone's home. One of these properties, 511, you can clearly see it's a squatter. The power lines are cut away from the house. But this 515 in particular, cars there, the yards kept up. They got toys in the backyard. So, you know, and sometimes it's a little hard to tell if it's somebody living there. But in these cases, it was obvious.
So,
Now,
I'm sorry, you might not have been done. So I was just going to ask Mr. Chair if I could clarify that you said 511 was a squatter as opposed to like an, an owner occupant. I mean, is that what you said?
yes, ma'am. This is a hypothesis, an educated guess that I took from knowledge of seeing somebody that's walking the neighborhood, because I went by a couple times, and he basically looks like a squatter. You know, you got the power line, no utilities on at the house on the 511.
Okay. And so I guess my question is, in our process, we don't do anything to notify that person that, or we don't get involved with the squatter situation, and we might actually convey the property subject to a squatter. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yes, you're correct, Director Clark. We do not get involved with squatters. We do inform the buyer that the property is sold as is. In addition, I think you asked a question I didn't address, which was, do we secure vacant properties if there's a structure, but there's no real occupant, the type that Mr. Richardson described? And what he's helping us do in the field is to identify structures on land bank lots that are not secured. And then he requests that help through the city's Department of Public Works, and they help us to board up those homes that are not secured.
Fantastic. I think that's what I really wanted to hear.
And
Just
did we
because
not
they're
add? Did we not add some funding in the budget, or ask for some funding in the budget to make sure we had the supplies to board up the houses?
Right now, we're working with the Department of Public Works on the supplies they currently have. There will come a time where we will need to contribute to the cost of those supplies. And that is what our next workshop will do, is to allocate the money we do have towards those things, in addition to maintenance of the grass. So to
All
your
right,
point,
is there
there's
any?
not a line item in our budget that says supplies to secure houses. The line items aren't built out that way, but we can allocate funds for that. But as of now, the city of Birmingham is sharing that cost and really bearing a big part of that cost.
All right, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make a motion if
Yes.
I'd
Thank
like I'd like to move for approval of resolution 9.2.21.2.
Second.
All right, Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
all right, and Director Hannon, aye. All right, resolution 9.2.21.3. It's a resolution approving applications and authorizing board chair to execute agreements with applicants for immediate acquisition program. So the floor is open for discussion.
So just to remind everybody what the immediate acquisition program is, these are properties that we have already cleared title to, and they are ready to go. As far as selling them to a specific person and for them to go ahead and start a renovation.
So these are the properties that we do have possession of, distinguished from the previous resolution. Okay, got it.
So these are properties that were identified through our strategic acquisition program, or they could be properties that we had an applicant for the quiet title program, but for whatever reason they were unable to close on it. So we're now selling that property.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve resolution 9.2.21.3.
Second.
Second.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
and Director Hannon is a yes, aye. So moving along to resolution 9.2.21.4, authorizing a request to the land commissioner for the transfer of the state's interest of 19 delinquent properties located in the corporate limits of the city of Birmingham to the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. So Chelsea?
Yes, so this goes
I'm
along
sorry.
with that quiet title, one that you all just approved of. And so these are the, quiet title and the lot lease. So this is us requesting the tax deeds for those properties that you just approved of. Again, the strikeout were the properties that were occupied, so we're no longer requesting those. And then on the agenda, I did notice that we had a misprint. It was at 10. And so I just crossed it out from the resolution and put the 19 in there. So it's an accurate count of how many we're actually requesting.
Thank you, Ms. Law. The floor is open for discussion.
So Mr. Hannon, I just have a quick question before I offer a motion. This is a companion item in essence to the other item, right?
Yes, ma'am. And some of those properties that was with the quiet title program, we already had the deed to, so it may not be listed on this one as well.
Oh, I see. I see.
Mhm. So
Well,
we're
Mr. Chair,
really excited when people apply for those properties that we already have the deed to, so that way we can go ahead and have action on them. And then if we do not have the deed, then we ask to acquire them from the Alabama Department of Revenue.
I see.
Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to offer a motion to approve resolution 9.2.21.4 as amended.
A second.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
and Director Watson,
Aye.
and Director Hannon is an aye, yes. And so the next resolution, 9.2.21.5, resolution approving the form of a lease purchase agreement with owner occupants residing in properties acquired by the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. And so this is the Ms. Douglas, if I'm correct, this is the redraft that was sent out into the board package of the lease purchase agreement. And are there any details about that you would like to highlight?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hannon. This lease purchase agreement was sent out to the board last month in preparation for the August board meeting. And what this lease purchase agreement does is it gives the land bank board, and just the land bank as in general, the ability to work with occupants who are currently occupying properties that the land bank received a tax deed for. You might remember in the past, I've mentioned something to the effect that with the team that we have and the work that they had, there was not enough people to go out into the field to inspect and make sure that the properties were not occupied. So the land bank acquired tax deeds to properties that were occupied, but unknowingly did that. And so some of these occupants have contacted the land bank office asking how can they pay off their taxes. And so this gives the occupant who may have been the prior owner before it went to the tax sale, or a relative to a deceased owner, the ability to continue living in the home without fear of being evicted and with the responsibility of paying those back taxes.
Okay.
Um,
All right, is there any discussion? All right, is there a motion to approve?
I do have one question, Ms.
Sorry.
Douglas. How many of these similar properties that you explained that we have possession of the tax deed and people live in?
I know of about a handful, that'll be about 5. We also
Okay.
have one that's in circuit court right now. There's a hearing date coming up on September 15th. And this property was going through the quiet title process, and a relative of the deceased owner appeared and wanted to redeem the property. And she's been in conversations with our office and wants to stay in the home. So I know of about 5 and one that's before the court, but there could be others as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions too. So who prepares, I know we had a lot of revisions and then this new agreement, who does the contract, who drafts the contracts for us?
For this lease purchase agreement that's before you on this resolution, I started drafting it, just going through it and making initial changes. And then I sent it to our attorneys, Attorney Jim Stanley and also Ben Goldman. And all 3 of us, being attorneys, took a look at it and brought it into a form that we felt was sufficient.
Okay. And then for the revisions, I guess the other ones aren't before us, so I won't talk about those. Can you give us just an order of magnitude? I'm just curious, like, I know it talked about the back taxes plus penalties and fees. Like, what kind of note might these people be paying off? And just order of magnitude generally, to satisfy. Do you happen to know, like, what kind of numbers we're talking about?
I've heard some taxes can be as high as 14,000, 25,000. Because in order to be eligible for our program, those properties in the past had to be at least 5 years tax delinquent. We find that many times they're way more than 5 years tax delinquent. And then there's interest on top of that when they are delinquent.
So do we have to further distribute the money that we collect for the back taxes, or it just comes into the land bank as revenue?
That's a good question. I'm going to defer that to either Mr. Goldman or Mr. Stanley.
The taxes have to be distributed back because if those amounts are still remaining due, then they still are in the same position they were when we started collecting the money. And this is simply a matter of us having our hands tied by the statute, which is designed to basically prevent somebody from having a windfall from, maybe having the board just sort of clear out all of the money that they owed on it. And that's written into the statute. So this is the best way we've been able to come up with to be able to let somebody remain in their home and take control of it in a way where they can restore their title. And so that language that you quoted earlier comes from the statute itself.
And then if we had gone so far as to quiet the title, then their right to redeem would be gone, right? Or
That's correct.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to move to establish a motion to accept this resolution?
Move the
Mr.
item.
Chair, okay, go ahead, somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll move the item that we accept resolution 9.2.21.5.
Second.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Hannon is an aye. Yes. All right, we'll move on to resolution 9.2.21.6, resolution approving contract revisions to the lot lease, quiet title, and immediate acquisition programs. So, Ms. Douglas, would you like to point out any highlights? This was sent out to us for the August meeting, I think.
Yes, sir. Thank you. These three were not sent out to all of you in August, but those revisions were almost ready at that time. What you have before you is a red line of the lot lease agreement, the quiet title agreement, and the immediate acquisition agreement. The red line was provided to you so you can see any language that was added, that was in blue. Any language that was deleted is in red. And for each of those programs, there were just a number of things that were tweaked or added for clarity and completeness. So for the lot lease agreement, we wanted to make sure that the applicant understood what their options were at the end of the contract term. The staff does inform them prior to the end of the contract term what their options are, but it's here stated clearly in the contract that after their contract term is over, they can move into the quiet title program, or they can receive a tax deed, or they can simply walk away from the property if that's not something they want to do at the time. Also, we wanted to make sure we put in here some compliance language, because what we want is when we do transfer the property that we have some track record showing that there was compliance in maintaining the property. And so those benchmarks are in here as well. And then we also put a media release in here because we've got some real success stories that we want to tell. We want to show photographs, we want testimonials, and we want to use those in our promotional material. And in order to do that without having to compensate anyone later, we wanted to make sure to put that release in this agreement so they can read, review it. Otherwise, we'd have to give a release to each participant at a separate time. So it's best to just get it all at the same time. So those are the highlights for the lot lease program.
Right, and I have that pulled up, and I do see the red line and blue line items.
We can pull it up now for the participants as well. I think we can do that.
Right, and I do see that there's some word choice, the authority versus BLBA. The preference
Just
is
for consistency.
Yeah.
When I looked at all three of our agreements, right, there's times where the land bank is referred to as the authority, other times as the BLBA. We just want it to be consistent throughout. That's a good observation. And then also in the notice section, we wanted to update that information so the applicant is clear that if they need to contact and also making sure that Attorney Jim Stanley gets a copy of whatever is sent to us. So this is the red line that each of you received in your packet. We just pulled it up for convenience. Thank you, Chelsea. She's driving now that I'm on this side of the screen.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I could comment.
Sure.
I like how this sort of standardizes, the form across the different programs. I feel like, a lot of it was just making them align where they could be aligned, and that's good. I had a question about the time though, to start performing on the quiet title program, and my concern about the time that's in section 12 on the implementation of the maintenance and development plan.
Okay,
I'm wondering if, I mean, I guess if it's not extensive repairs, 45 days could be plenty of time, but I'm thinking about the condition of some of these structures where you might have to, once the quiet title action is completed and the land bank is ready to convey, that person's been on ice for, 6 months maybe. And so now they've got to be ready in 45 days, I guess, from the closing, which could be, but the closing is going to be what? I'm just thinking about maybe needing to hire an architect and a builder and get financing if it's extensive repairs. And so I don't know if that could be adjustable to the circumstance, because, or maybe, maybe for some it's 45 days because it's a simple rehab, and maybe for others it's 90 days. It just struck me as somebody who's been in this predicament with old properties that if you gotta get financing, hire an architect, and hire a contractor, you can't start performing. I mean, because you didn't really know when the land bank was going to have. I mean, you didn't. I guess Let me ask you this: when we quiet title, I know when we approve the quiet title action, we know that it is in favor of a particular individual, but I don't know if that individual knows that it's advancing, that they are the chosen one, because it could have been multiple people choosing. So do they know that they're the chosen one when it starts the quiet title process, so that they can be getting prepared to perform? And I guess that's my question, because if they don't know until the end of the process that they've been selected, that could be maybe a reason why, a lot of them end up going into the immediate acquisition, because maybe people applied and they didn't really know all that time that that it was being processed, for them. I'm that's convoluted. I'm sorry, it's complicated, but I'm just wondering if that's enough time, if people don't know until it comes out of the quiet title process that they've been awarded the property, and so they haven't had a lot of time to prepare. Is that the case, or am I just making that up?
Director Clark, I think you're asking a good question, and I think it's just good for everyone's information. Once the board approves an applicant or an application for the quiet title program, the staff does inform them that their application has been approved.
Okay. So they know to get in gear to ultimately receive this property.
Absolutely, because after they are approved, there's going to be a period where they are coming in to deposit their earnest money. If they want updates during the quiet title process, they can call into the office, but the office will call them about 30 days prior to closing. So they know once they've been approved, and they can get a status update on the case if they'd like one, and then they will also get another notice before closing.
Okay, okay, that's fine. That makes perfect sense, that people know it's going to come out. I guess we can't always predict when the court, when it'll come out, but we know it'll come out at some point.
True, and just
Right.
to add on to that, they also have 30 days to inspect after the land bank receives the tax deed.
Okay.
So
Or
they'll know
the tax
exactly
deed or the
the
quiet
condition
title?
of the properties in.
The tax deed or the quiet title? Because I'm thinking about the quiet title people now, because we get the tax deed, then we authorize you to quiet the title on someone's behalf, and that's sort of the black hole. You enter it into the court process, you don't really know when it's coming out. So I'm wondering, are people advised to, do they know?
So before the quiet title case can be filed, the land bank has to receive the tax deed. So that last resolution that the board approved gives the land bank office the permission to ask the state for that tax deed. Once that tax deed is received, then the property applicant can inspect the property. and it can be assigned to an attorney to file the quiet title suit.
Okay, okay.
Ha-
So that
ha-
applicant is involved before the quiet title action is filed.
Correct. So right now, all of those applications, that the board has approved, they will know after today that their application is approved. Then they will know once we get the tax deed. That will trigger their inspection period. And then the case can be filed after that.
Hey, Ms. Douglas, about how long does it take the state to get you the tax deed once you've made the request?
That is a time frame that we can't nail down quite well, especially because of COVID.
Mhm.
I remember once that started, the staff told me it took months. And there are even some that they still haven't received.
Got it.
Chelsea, do you know how long it's taking? So Chelsea was saying she recalls requesting tax deeds in December of 2020 that still have not been received.
Mm.
But I think
So,
overall, the request and receipt process is working. It's just slow, very slow.
It's just slow. And was that typical before COVID, or COVID has just impacted that time?
Before COVID, it took about 2 to 3 months. After
Mm.
COVID, it was just dependent on the state's response.
On the state's response. Understood. Thank you.
All right, is there any further discussion?
I just want to ask, and maybe compliment Ms. Douglas. It seems like the interaction with the applicants has improved, would you say, lately, in terms of being able to get status information?
I've got to tell you, Director Clark, I think that they were receiving that information previously. I think the staff was reaching out and giving them that information. One thing that we are all doing together is just making sure there are no gaps. We try to close any gap, any communication gap that is existing. And so I think a lot of the changes that are before you in the agreement are going to address some of the gaps that I saw. So you'll notice that in the quiet title program agreement and the immediate acquisition program agreement, in addition to the media release, there's a section that addresses property taxes. There's a section that addresses condemnable structures. Those are all observations and gaps that I saw. But as far as communicating with the public, I've got to tell you, you've got a great staff here. They speak to every person, whether it's an easy conversation or a difficult one, but they do their best to reach out. But I do think that there are some things we can do to just strengthen that communication pipeline.
And I hate to belabor it, but like I'm thinking about, let's say we have 10 people applying and one person is selected and recommended to the board. Well, what do those other 9 people think? Do they not know, or can they look at a grid somewhere and see that it was awarded, or is there a public notice like on our website where they could look at the property and see, okay, well, that's been awarded, and it must not be to me because I haven't heard from anybody. I'm just wondering, if we think about the, so the applicant knows, but what about, I mean, the successful applicant, the selected person knows, but what do the other people find out, and how do they find out? And I'm not saying we have to have an answer, but I think that's just something to think about and figure out an efficient way so that maybe, we can cut down on the number of phone calls too, because I don't know, for every one person I meet who loves the land bank, there are, another 10 who are very frustrated. And I think we all of us deal with that, including the staff, and so we want, and it's a startup, so we're going to have continuous improvement. I know. So I just tell people to be patient. It's the best thing we got going. So just be patient. But
yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a fair question, and understandably, If their application is not accepted or approved, they are not happy, but they are notified. I want to
Okay.
bring Ms. Chelsea to my seat to explain how that's done. And I
Okay.
do think that this is part of a bigger communication plan that we will have, which is how do we not only inform those applicants that are accepted and approved, but also keeping communication line open with those who are rejected. Because it may not be as simple as why wasn't my application accepted? It might be, what do I need to do next time? Or how can I avoid it? But all of you know that it's a competitive application process. And so it's to be expected that one person will be approved and one person will be rejected. But Ms. Chelsea will come and explain a little bit more about that process.
I'm back. So what we've tried to start doing was emailing everybody whose application was not accepted. If there was a reason why, that is very simple, like let's say they didn't attach any plans to their property and we don't have any other competing applications, we've started reaching out to them as well, saying, hey, we've looked at your application before this 30-day period is up. We noticed that you have not submitted any project details with your application. So to give you time before this 30-day period is up, email us your plan so we can attach it to your application and we can relook at it. So that gives them even another chance to correct what it is that's on their application before we just flat out reject it. If it is a competing application and there was just we've reached out and they didn't fix the things that they needed to be fixed, then we have no choice but to reject the application. But we have started emailing everybody whose application was not accepted and letting them know the reason why. Also, at any time when you create an account with us to fill out that application, you can always log back into your account and it gives you the status of what your application is in. So if your application was submitted but we have not looked at it yet, your status will say submitted. If the staff has looked at the application but there really isn't anything that we did to it, the status will say under review. If your application was rejected, your status will say closed. If we're approving it for the board or the board does
Closed.
approve it, then their status will change and say board approve awaiting contract. So they can always log into their account to get the status. If they don't hear from our office, because sometimes people do fall through the cracks, we always answer that question if they do call. And trust me, I answer every single phone call that goes through this office. And if they don't leave a voice message, I still call them back.
Well, kudos to you.
Yes, and I mean, to me, that's just is another testament for just the hard work that the staff are putting into this process. I know in a lot of spaces that if that application is not correct, it's just thrown out and it's not given the care that you all give. And so my hat's off to the staff. All right, can we move to bring this to a vote? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer a motion to approve the contract amendments. Did we voted separately on the new contract, right? So these are all, I don't
Yes,
see a resolution number, but
it is.
refer to it as the contract amendments or? Okay, I got it.
We're going
It
to pull
is
it back up. We're going to pull it back up. Sorry.
Okay.
This is
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer a motion to approve resolution number 9.2.21.6.
I second.
all right. Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Hannon is a yes. All right, I think that is the end of the resolutions. And so we have old business, new business, and then we'll adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I
So-
don't have any items under old business, but I've got
Okay.
2 items under new business.
Okay, so I think we're going to have to go into executive session for the new business. Am I correct?
I wanted to present the first item, which won't require executive session,
Okay.
if that's okay.
All right, terrific.
Okay. To all the board members, I just want you to know that we have excellent talent on our staff. One thing I'm doing is interviewing right now. We've got 2 positions that are available with the land bank. And with these new added positions, it will help us be a lot more efficient. I want to make sure I put this in context for you all, that our team consists of Ms. Chelsea, Ms. Burrell, and our Inspector Richardson, that's 3. We also have an AmeriCorps intern who is Cara Clay, and she is helping us expand our capacity. But by the end of October, I hope to bring on at least 2 new team members to help us strengthen our programming and also help us streamline our process. I think all of this together will help the land bank run so much better. Also, I want to give commendations to Ms. Chelsea Law. She was working together with our AmeriCorps Vista intern, Lauren Senwo. I want all of you to take a look at the Birmingham Land Bank site. I don't know if you've been there lately, but I invite you to please visit. The video that you will see at the beginning was done by our AmeriCorps Vista intern, just so every person interested in the land bank understands how to apply for properties. The video was really well done. In addition to that, she brought to life with Miss Chelsea something that Miss Chelsea wanted to do for the land bank. In conjunction with the City of Birmingham's Pride Where We Reside effort, the land bank is walking alongside the city. And I offered up 3 things that the land bank staff could do, and they've been doing it consistently for almost 11 weeks now. When the city is in a neighborhood or community, the land bank is there with our inspectors, finding if there are any land bank lots with structures that need to be secured. Ms. Chelsea's out there looking for properties that we can highlight on our social media. And then we're also checking to see which properties have been recently sold so we can strengthen our compliance process. I want you to know that all of those efforts, in addition to the social media push, which highlights vacant lots and lots with structures on it, have all resulted in us getting an increase in our social media following. If all of you are not our followers on Facebook or Instagram, I invite you to please join us. We'd love for you to see the activity and the interaction we're getting from the public on the posts that we're making. And so these are all creative efforts that Ms. Chelsea Law and Ms. Lauren Senwo did together. And this is just the beginning. And so we're just refreshing our presence on our website and also pushing out some new things through our Instagram and Facebook page. Wanted the board to know what the staff was up to. All right, and so now
All
I
right,
will.
thank you so much.
Yes, the floor is yours, Dr. Hannon.
All right, I think our second item of new business requires executive session, and I think Attorney Goldman is going to take us into executive session.
Well, I'll offer a declaration to support it, and send a copy of this to the board chair, to Ms. Douglas, and to Mr. Stanley. But this offers the opinion that we will be discussing with the board's attorneys controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated, or imminently likely to be litigated if the board pursues a proposed course of action. It is my recommendation that we go into executive session for that purpose, that we will need to come back and consider some additional business after the executive session is done, and I would estimate that the amount of time that will be required for the executive session is approximately 15 minutes.
Okay. All right.
So I'm willing to make the motion that we go into executive session to discuss board business that could go to litigation. Is that effective enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Hannon, aye. All right, so Mr. Goldman, we are going to go into a breakout room. We have the capacity to do that, and we can start our executive session immediately.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Ms. Douglas, Attorney Douglas is going to be sending the board members and our attorneys into the breakout session. So you should see on your screen in a second a invitation to join the room. So if you just stand by for a second, you should see it pop up on your screen. So.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Dr. Hannon, you have the floor. Director Hannon, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for being patient. And so right now we had new business that we discussed in executive session. And I did send out a notice of that resolution that we would like to read out and make public.
So I move that we approve resolution number 2.2.21.7.
Okay.
Second.
So I think, can we read that
Sure.
resolution out?
Okay.
Has it
So,
arrived?
yes,
Okay.
resolution 9.2.21.7 says a resolution authorizing the retention of counsel to file and prosecute a claim and or action against Angel Calhoun, Pine Valley, Pine Valley One Real Estate LLC, and Illinois Limited Liability Company and or responsible parties related to protecting the Birmingham Land Bank Authority's interest in property at address number 1304 29th Street North, Birmingham, Alabama 35234.
All right, do we have a second?
Yes, I second.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Hatcher,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Hannon is an aye, which means the motion is approved. All right, is there any other new business?
No, sir.
All right, so at this time, I would like to ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.